and share my screen. There we go. Can everyone see that okay? I hope so. Holler out if you can't see the talent identification program slide.
Good to go.
All right, thank you. Before we talk a little bit about the TIP program that we have recently launched, I just want to give you a little bit of history. As most of you probably on this call are aware, Duke TIP closed in 2020, kind of leaving some shockwaves across at least the southeastern part of the country, where the bulk of the partnerships with different states with Duke TIP had been. We had a long-lasting relationship with Duke TIP. That was their talent identification program that many of the schools used. When they closed, Dr. Roberts, in addition to our staff here at the center, immediately went into action. They knew and know that the students of the state needed to be addressed and their concerns and talents need to be identified. So they reached out to the Bell and Blank Center at the University of Iowa. The University of Iowa, the Bell and Blank Center has been having their own program for many, many years. And so we reached out and have been partnering with them, as I will mention when we get into the testing. We also developed a consortium with other centers across the country, and we continue to work with them and ACT to come up with some future processes with the ACT. Of course, our overarching goal is identifying and supporting the academic talent across the state of Kentucky. There are some main components. The above-level assessment is a key piece that we have partnered with Bell and Blank Center in Iowa. And this test will be offered. Actually, we soft launched it at the beginning of this year, and we have numerous schools already registering students to be a part of that. And in addition to the actual assessment comes the scores and the results, the interpretations, which will have many recommendations for students to help meet their needs and what levels they need to be challenged at. So the center has for years been offering programming and resources that dovetails nicely with the above-level assessments. And then we would also like to continue the recognition program that we partnered with Duke TIP for many, many years and hosted at Western Kentucky University. We would like to continue and we'll plan on continuing that program. Some of you might be asking the above-level testing and what does that reveal? This chart here gives you a little bit of an example of when you're looking over at the chart, the bell curve A, that would be your bell curve of your advanced learners in the top 5 to 10% of the testing group. So what the above level test results will share and show for you is the chart B on the right. It'll show much more of a differentiation of where they're at and what types of challenges these students in the top percentage of a grade are needing. And again, the benefits, many of the students may have already been identified for a gifted program, and there may be some that have not yet been identified. So this test can help with that. Of course, excuse me, breaking the academic ceiling, so to speak. Often students get caught into not having the level of challenge they need at their grade level. And determining that degree of challenge, as I mentioned, when you take the above level test that's designed for older kids, taken at a younger level, it'll help the teachers and families better understand what they're ready to learn. And the big question is, how do you know if your students are being challenged or if your student is being challenged? This is just to kind of point out the bell curve in a different way of looking at it. Let's take Kate, Will, and Taylor, for example. There are 3 students all in the same grade, let's say 6th grade. What happens is at the grade level assessment, they will often be performing extremely well in the top 90 to 95 or even closer to 100% levels at their grade level. So that would be 5th grade. So if they take the IXL test, which is the TIP Kentucky's above level test, this test is designed for older students. So the chart may change a little bit, and it should change because these students that are testing at the upper level in their grade level will have much greater variation with the above level test. So Kate may have tested, for example, off the chart in the 95th percentile in comparison to 8th graders. Will may have been off the chart on reading. And Taylor, while is really high level in her grade level, may not be quite as high when you're taking an above level test, which gives you an idea of where these students might want to go and what type of acceleration as well as enrichment programs the teachers and families might want to look to. TIP Kentucky is using the above level test I mentioned called IXL. It's an online platform, so it's taken on a computer, and it was developed, the platform was developed with the Bell and Blank Center. Of course, the content was licensed, developed by ACT, and some of you may be familiar with the Explorer test. Duke TIP had used Explorer materials for younger, for the elementary age students. And some of that material is contained in this IXL as well. And the four subject areas are your math, science, English, and reading. The benefit of science, often at the younger or mid-elementary level, you don't have as much information. So it's nice that this test does include the science component. The nuts and bolts of the IXL, basically it's catered for students in grades 4 through 6, scoring in the top 10%. And it doesn't have to be in all the categories. It could just be in 1 or 2 subject areas. The nice thing about the IXL is the teachers can register students in the comfort of their school at their convenience, so they can work around their school schedules, and the students have the opportunity to take the test in their home school or one of the schools nearby. The cost for regular students is $49. For students who qualify for free or reduced lunch, it would be $22. And typically the test takes about 2.5 hours. We encourage teachers or test coordinators to allot 3 hours just to be safe for technology purposes and any little glitches you may run into. But there's 4 30-minute tests in the 4 areas we had mentioned. Now, the wonderful benefit of the test is the actual information received from the test. As we know, information is power. And there are reports given to both the families as well as the teachers. The individual student report that goes to the families will compare the student scores to other talented students in the same grade, as well as to students in the 8th grade, which the test was originally designed for. So you can get a feeling where the student fits and where the challenge needs to be, or what level or degree of challenge is needed. And as of course we mentioned, it breaks it into the 4 subject areas, and there's lots of recommendations and suggestions. There's a pyramid of educational options. I'll show you a little, this slide here gives you a sample of what that pyramid might look like. So it'll break it down by subject area where the student may be. So as we had shown with the Kate scenario, math, she may be extremely academically talented and maybe academically talented in science and English and reading and vice versa. So then there are recommendations based on which area or degree that the student is at. The educators also receive a group report, and this will give them just an overall summary of the students that they had tested at their school, and it'll show in comparison to students of 8th grade and show the strengths, the weaknesses, and of course there will be the pictorial representation as well for the educator report. One thing I do want to note is that the educators will see the student scores, but the student families at the school will not see the other student scores. That's just something from an educator standpoint. And testing registration is now open. Since I have both online educators as well as families, I wanted to be clear that what you're seeing here on this slide is really catered for the test coordinators and the teachers. The teachers actually go, or the test coordinators go to our website to register their school. So they'll click and do a quick brief form on our website, and then we'll receive the testing center link to go put an account in and build from there. So it's a pretty simple process. Every school has different circumstances and needs, and the Bell and Blank Testing Center is very accommodating to help, whether you have a special needs situation for a student, or you just want to talk with them about the time frame or add another student. They're very, very agreeable and wonderful to work with. Also, one thing I want to mention for the educators online, there's flexibility in terms of payment. The payments can either be as a whole for student or for the school to pay, or you can put that out with a link to the families for the families to register their student and to pay. I do want to mention, because it's come up more than once, that we need to allow, when you're registering a school, you need to allow some wiggle room. I would give at least a month out for the testing date, and the families are to register within 3 weeks of the testing date, unless you work out a situation with the testing center. That is their standard. So don't let that cut you off guard when they close the registration 3 weeks out from the testing date. But you can communicate with the testing center to see if you have a specific circumstance. Now, some of you may be asking about 7th and 8th graders, because I think that's where a lot of you knew Duke TIP from. And our consortium that I mentioned earlier is working to put a process in place. We do not have the details as of yet, but we are anticipating working with 7th and 8th graders through TIP, as well as being able to provide the test result information. However, at this point, if you are interested in testing your 7th and 8th grade students, you need to go to the ACT.org and work with the ACT organization itself. And one last thing I wanted to mention. Oh, hold on, I got a question here. Do all students have to take all 4 sections? Yes. Oh, thank you, Tyler. He answered that question. Sorry, I can't see the chats while I'm talking here. We have a wonderful opportunity for select 6th graders through Project Launch Plus. And this is a partnership with Johns Hopkins University. It is a wonderful Javits grant that is supported with the U.S. Department of Education. And what this program does is focuses on talent development for 6th graders who have had limited opportunities in the past. This could be due to socioeconomic challenges. This could be to living in a rural setting, for example, or a circumstance that would keep a student from being able to get to opportunities that maybe their peers might have otherwise. We have a residential 1-week camp that we are offering the next 3 summers for 6th graders. So if you don't have a 6th grader this year and they're a 5th or 4th grader, they might also be eligible. And it's the opportunity is to take the IXL test, to go to the camp, and also there is an online complimentary, or there's a program that's an online program coupled with the Camp Discover. And there are also informational emails for the families or parents that cover relevant topics related to advanced learners. And all that information has already been organized and put out there with good, credible sources. So these are wonderful opportunities if you think that you have some students at your school, or if you're a family and you think you have a student that might fit this qualification, feel free to reach out. We would love to. We will have more information coming in the future about the Javits grant to the school system. So be on the lookout for that in the very near future. And those camps, actually there's one camp that's offered July 11th, the week of July 11th. So that information will be out shortly.
Jennifer, there's a question here asking if you can speak to the options for grades 7 and 8 again.
Yes. At this point, we are still working out details in terms of TIP Kentucky. So if you have a 7th or 8th grader interested in taking the ACT, they will need to register directly with ACT.org.
And Jennifer, that student needs to be 13 at a minimum to be able to register through ACT.
Thank you for clarifying that. Yes. All right. Just to share with you a few other opportunities, we have some wonderful camps that are available this summer. Our SCATS camp for those who've completed 6th through 8th grade, and our VAMPI camp. Both of these are residential. SCATS is 2 weeks, VAMPI is 3 weeks. The registration is already open for those two particular camps. Camp Explore and Camp Innovate are for younger grade levels, and they will be open for registration by the end of this week, I do believe. So be on the lookout on our website for those two camps as well. We're in the process right now of having wonderful Super Saturdays. We offer Super Saturdays programs on Saturdays in the fall, a segment of 3 weekends. And at winter, typically in February, we are in the process of finishing our last Super Saturday this coming weekend. And of course, we have a wonderful workshop type program every year called Idea Fest. It's all about innovation, creativity, getting those creative juices flowing in the youthful minds. So those are wonderful opportunities, as well as our Make a Difference service learning opportunity that was made possible by Drs. Modi out of Glasgow. They provided a wonderful donation that has allowed this service learning opportunity that happens in the fall. And of course, we typically in non-pandemic times offer travel opportunities both in the fall and in the spring. Dr. Roberts has been doing it for, gosh, numerous years. And they have visited wonderful places, which is open for middle and high school students and families, I believe. Is that correct? So if you are interested in some of these programming opportunities for this summer, please visit our website, and here's the dates of the camp. If you want to make note of those, they'll be coming up this summer. I wanted to mention just, yeah.
There's a question in the chat about Camp Discover. A couple of them actually. Is it for rising 6th graders, so they're 5th graders now, or students who are 6th graders this school year?
Excellent question. It's actually students who've completed, who are 6th graders currently, would go to the Camp Discover.
And then if to be considered for Camp Discover, does the student need to have an IXL result?
No, they do not. Actually, they can. We will be testing students as a part of that program. But if they've had the test, we will still, you know, that won't be, they won't be not considered, if that makes sense. But they don't have to be tested prior to. That is not a prerequisite for being involved with Camp Discover.
And anyone who is interested in Camp Discover, that registration will happen through schools. It won't happen registering your child person by person. It will be done differently because we're looking for school groups to register.
So
And
go ahead, Tyler.
that part relates to Camp Discover, but there was a similar question. What if the school district does not give the IXL assessment? Can a student still take IXL?
Excellent question. We are in the works of having a testing date on our campus this June. I do not have that date yet. So that will be an option for students and families that are interested if their school is not having a testing date this spring.
Those are the only questions I see right now.
Okay, thank you for interjecting. Appreciate that. I don't know why I'm having trouble getting my slides to move. There we go. All right, on to Kentucky Association for Gifted Education. We have a conference coming up February 22nd and 23rd. We would love for any families or schools, educators, anyone who is interested in gifted education is open and welcome. And I just put on the slide here the keynote speaker, Dr. Siegley, out of University of Connecticut. But there is a whole host. If you go to their website, there's a bunch of wonderful presenters. We have some educators from the state of Kentucky. We have several that are out of state on topics relating to gifted education. Is there anything else you would like to mention about that, Dr. Roberts?
It is a wonderful opportunity to keep learning together and to be improving our services for gifted students. So I encourage you to register for the conference. It's almost here, and join in with other families and educators for the 2 days that are coming up on 2/22/22 and 2/23/22.
That's a tongue twister.
Kind of fun.
If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. My email is very simple, jennifer.wilson@wku.edu. There is one thing I wanted to add to the chat box. I'm going to stop sharing my program here for a moment. I do want to add the link to feedback. Here we go. If I can get it in the chat box, I would encourage all of you, if you can, spare a moment. We would love to have feedback. Where did my chat box go? There we go. Did it? There we go. I think we've answered all the questions.
Jennifer,
Tyler?
can I ask a question? I didn't want to try, this is Susie Burkhardt from Shelby County. I didn't want to try to type this in the chat box, but for students grades 4 through 6 taking the IXL, when the results come back, I may be misunderstanding, it is an 8th grade, I know it's above grade level test, but is it 8th grade level then? So when the results come back for a 4th grader, will there just be one benchmark that they're compared to, or will we see kind of a spectrum of like 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th? Am I making any sense?
Yes. I may have run through that, and I'm sorry if I confused. There will be comparison reports. For example, if it's a 5th grader, there will be a comparison reports to the 8th grade level, but there will also be comparison report to talented students in the same grade level. But I don't believe there's for every single grade. It's just for their grade level, if that makes sense.
Okay, yes.
So you've got the two. You've got the extreme, what the test was designed for, and then you've got other talented students of their grade level.
And you'll be receiving various recommendations for where that child could be served in order to make continuous progress.
Jennifer, there's a question about the cost. Is there a cost for the school to register an account for iExcel? And also, is the cost that you mentioned just per student for each 4-part test session?
Is there a cost for the student? The cost for the entire test is $49 for regular students, $22 for students of free or reduced lunch. Did that answer?
And that cost is per student?
Yes,
And
yes,
it
it's per
includes
student.
It includes all 4 sections of the assessment.
Yes, that includes all 4 sections of the assessment, as well as the score interpretation and analysis and recommendations.
And there is no cost to the school for setting up an account.
Can the school pay for their students to take it? Is there a way for a school to register all of the kids?
If your school chooses to register and pay for the students, there are options once you get into registering for the actual test. So you can either do it all through a PO with the school, or you can, some schools prefer just to send the link to the parents to register and to pay by credit card. So those are the 2 options, and they give you that flexibility when you're registering. Excellent questions. The one I do want to re-emphasize is the window, because that's come up a few times just in the past week, to make sure you give yourself enough wiggle room to communicate with the families. I would say minimum of a month, unless you really have a date that you've got to get it worked out. I would just work directly with the assessment center, assessment@bellandblank.org, and that information, once you go to register, that will be in the information. Any other questions? I don't see any others in here. Well, I sure appreciate everyone's time. And if you're like me, you like to think and process on the information, and the questions will come later. So feel free to reach out and email any of us. My email again, jennifer.wilson@wku.edu. Dr. Roberts, do you have anything else to add?
I would like to say thank you for coming today. We've got lots of exciting things at the Center for Gifted Studies. The Idea Festival tomorrow will bring about 650 middle and high school students here. So you can picture the activity at the center. We're getting ready for summer programming, and help us spread the word, knowing that if children and young people and their families don't know about opportunities, they can't participate. You've got to know about an opportunity for it to be a real opportunity. And I would say to you that for children whose families could not support programming, we do provide financial assistance. So make sure that folks know that opportunities are there, as well as opportunities to support them if they need that support. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. Have a great week.
Bye.